Well, hey there. Thanks for coming by. My name is JR and this is Trade Skillers Anonymous. Now, normally we do a lot of woodworking and CNC work on this channel. However, I've recently gotten into some metal fabrication and welding. And what I have here is a small, budget-friendly DC TIG welder that was sent to me for evaluation. Although this is not a paid promotion, I'm not receiving any money and I'm under no requirements to say anything in particular about this machine. I wanted to share some information with you if you're considering, like I was, getting into different methods of welding. But since this came to me for free, I am going to give it away to one of the viewers of this video. So please stay tuned for more details about how you can win. Let's get into it. All right, so first let's just have a quick chat. So number one, nothing's really changing with the channel. I'm not going to become a welding channel, but I just have to say that I'm always curious about really any of the industrial arts or just different mediums for creativity, and that's what led us to here. So I've got some experience with MIG and stick welding and had not previously done any TIG welding. And if you've done some research on the different disciplines of welding or methods of welding, I can verify for you that TIG welding is probably the most difficult to get your head around, because you're doing a lot of the things that might happen automatically with a different welding style. So like I said in the intro, I was sent this welder by a company named Vevor, who it turns out they make all kinds of stuff. And just for evaluation, again, this is not a paid video. I don't really see myself getting into stuff like that, but it was interesting enough and it lined up with, my particular interests in expanding the things that I do in my shop. So this welder runs about $249 or so. There will be a discount code down in the description, and along with some links for where you can get it directly from them if you're interested. I don't earn anything from that, and that's really not my interest, is not to get involved with all that kind of stuff. So what I would tell you is that as I get into things, one of the traps that I get myself into is I say, oh, that seems like a good idea. Let me go buy the biggest, baddest version of it that I can. And because I was not sure that TIG welding was going to specifically fit into any of my workflows, and where the welding really started from is getting into the thought of building table bases, for desks or tables that I might build in my woodworking shop. And rather than outsource that or buy it from someone, I'm interested in seeing if that can't be fabricated right here in my shop. And so MIG is probably just fine for a process for that type of work. But I tell you what, if you've looked around, the quality of the appearance of welds, or I guess the attractiveness of them, TIG is by far the prettiest weld to look at once you get yourself sorted out and understand how to do it. So at any rate, instead of jumping in and buying a big whammer jammer, couple $1,000 TIG welder, I thought, geez, this would be a neat thing to see if I like it and if I can, get my head wrapped around it. So if you aren't familiar with the difference between MIG and TIG, so a lot of what happens with MIG welding is really setting your gas right, setting your wire feed right that comes out of the torch at the proper speed, and then lastly your voltage. So you do have some voltage settings to be concerned about with MIG or TIG welding as well, but they're a much more manual process. So you either have something like this torch, which has a trigger on the torch itself, and then you have the tungsten electrode that comes out of the end of this pink cup, and then through the cup flows argon gas. And it really takes some decent coordination to get all of that correct. And then with your left hand, or if you're right-handed like I am, you then have to feed in filler wire that's appropriate for the job that you're working on. So there's just a lot going on One of my favorite things to do so far is to go ahead and dunk my tungsten right into the weld, causing me to have to stop and then regrind, my tungsten back clean again and to a point. And that's just normal. You're going to do that when you're first starting out. And again, because I knew from watching some other YouTube videos about the process of learning how to TIG weld, that's a very common thing that is said, is just understand that you're going to do that a lot when you're first starting out, getting used to things. And it was another reason that I was kind of looking around for a budget machine, because again, I didn't know if that was going to damage things. Frankly, I didn't know what I didn't know. So I think, like a lot of folks who are interested in getting into a new discipline, a new manufacturing process, or just tinkering around in your shop, a welder like this, and there are several that are out on the market made by different manufacturers. I know the Harbor Freight stuff is pretty popular with folks because it's available locally. But I have to say that for around $200 or so, and I'll put some relevant today pricing, and this is December of 2023 when I'm recording this. But I think the price point to entry on this particular model is $200, maybe even less. So with that being said, there were a couple of things that did surprise me as I looked around. So I know some people call this the work clamp. Some people call it the ground clamp. I'm fine calling it the work clamp or the ground clamp, because in my brain that makes more sense. But this is actually a surprising quality piece, because a lot of times you're relying on a metal strip in here, and what they have done is they've actually included a braided strand between both the jaws. And that may not look like it adds a lot to the cost, but it isn't the cheapest way to do it. And I will tell you, that was a nice surprise to see. This welder itself, which is the 210 model, can run on either 120 or 240. And what I got with mine when I got it here was, pardon me while I fumble around for a second. So you do have a 240 plug that is naturally part of the machine. It doesn't appear to be serviceable without taking the case apart, which we're not going to do today. But terminates into the back of the machine. But they do send you this adapter so that if you only have 110 or 120 available to you, you can in fact use this adapter, plug that guy in, and then you can get to a standard North American plug in my case. That is going to limit the output of the machine naturally if you're on 120 instead of 240. But for most folks doing stuff in a garage, that's not going to be an issue. At the 220 input level, you're gonna be able to weld up to 3/8 inch steel. And I can tell you that I haven't done anything past 1/4 inch in some of my testing and playing around with the machine. But I can tell you that it didn't have any problem achieving, the proper heat setting coming out of the tungsten, and didn't have any limitations as far as that goes. I have run it both on the 120 and the 240 because I have both available to me in my shop. So yeah, no complaints. It really had plenty of power output, but again, I didn't weld anything that was thicker than 1/8 inch material. So there's really two things that I try to avoid when I'm making a video for you to watch. I kind of think of how I watch videos and things that are interesting to me. So there are two things specifically about welding that I don't really love about welding videos unless I'm trying to learn a technique from someone. So I won't be doing any welding with this machine here because it's a lot of dead air, dead space in a video. You can't really see what's going on, and frankly, I'm nowhere even close to being able to tell someone else how to weld. I'm still trying to figure out how to do some parts of it myself. The other part is I don't do unboxing videos. I'll throw it down here in a picture-in-picture environment, and just tell you that it came in a good box, and it had styrofoam, and stuff was packed neatly, and there was no damage. It looked like they had the packaging and shipping figured out pretty well on this thing. You will put on these two little doodads here, which are just a real basic wire, you know, type of deal. And all you're gonna do is that's just for storage for your ground cable. Pretty simple way to do it, and didn't see a great way to kind of end all of this. But again, this is a highly portable unit. I think it weighs like 18 pounds, something like that. And what I can tell you is that it, you know, something you're probably going to store under somewhere. I usually have it on a cart back here that I got. So that's about it for those two topics. I can tell you that the shortest lead on the machine is the ground or the work clamp. And I think it's about 5.5, 6 feet. That hasn't been a limiting factor for me. I found that I could get to the stuff that I was working on. And I typically do that on a table like I'm sitting in front of today. I'll flash up on the screen how long the torch cable is, but I can tell you it's much longer than the ground cable. It's probably a good 10 or 12 feet. Seems like a weird mismatch that your ground cable wouldn't be the same length as your torch, assuming that you're bringing the torch to the work instead of the work to the torch. Not sure why that is, but it is a good bit longer, which I found is of decent quality. It's got some kind of a rubber hose covering on the outside of it, you know, to just keep all the wires. Really all that's going through here is your gas and your trigger wire and the electricity going to the torch itself, to the electrode. Okay, and so for demonstration purposes, just spun this thing around the back. I have removed my gas line, so you will need argon to run this. And again, this model is a DC TIG, so you can do essentially most everything except aluminum. You would need an AC machine to do aluminum, so this is DC only. But again, for most folks, you're starting out, most of what you're going to try to work out is your personal technique in order to get started. So, you know, once we flip the machine around, and I have left it off this entire time just because, you know, the fan is a little bit loud. There is a nice power switch on the back that kind of a nice add was they put a rubber boot around it, and I'll throw a picture of that up here as well. You know, just anytime you can keep debris out of, you know, power switches and stuff, you know, I think it's a good idea. All right, so now I'm going to come into the front of the machine and we'll talk for just a moment about some of the capabilities. Now, again, for me, I'm super basic in the things that I've done with this machine, but I know there are some features that are important to people. So the lowest amperage that you can select is 10 amps. The most you can select is 210. I have it only plugged into 220 120 right now. It would not deliver that on a 120 plug. You would need to be plugged into 220 in order to get any kind of service time out of the welder at that setting. So you can cycle through the different things. We had the peak amperage selected here, and it's real simple. You can just go through depending on the mode that you're in. You can select, so in this case, let's go over to the pre-flow. Now, pre-flow is how much time will elapse when you start the weld where gas is already flowing to cover your weld. So in this case, I have just 0.1 seconds. There's our amperage. And then the post-flow, I run, 2 seconds after I'm done with my particular weld. It will continue to flow for 2 seconds. Over here, we have another selection. You can either be on TIG, MMA, which is stick, or cleaning function, which frankly I don't use. And then you can, down here, select from pulse, spot, or DC. Now the pulse is more advanced than my current skill set, so I can't speak too much on how you would use pulse effectively. But do know that this machine does have that feature available. And then there is 2T and 4T, and quite simply, that just means 2T is there's 2 trigger presses, to get the machine turned on or off. So it's press 1 to engage and then let go. I'm actually going to turn this off here for a moment. So 2T is pull the trigger, it's on, let the trigger off, it's off. 4T is you press and let go and it's on, and then press and let go and it's off. And I guess you would use that if you had a particularly long weld or something that you were working on that required that. Okay, so we've gone over some of the features of the machine, and again, I just didn't feel like it'd be value added for me to weld a couple of coupons together. The machine works, and not only does it works better than I would have expected for its price point. So I just took a break in between cuts here. The website lists this thing at $249, and I guess if you sign up or register on their website, it could be as low as $190. I will also have a coupon code down below if you aren't the person who wins this particular one. So let's get to the fun part. So again, I just feel like, this YouTube channel has been a lot of fun over the last year and a half or so. And this is the first time that somebody has sent me a product or a tool or whatnot to provide a review for. So that was cool. But I don't necessarily think that I'm going to get the most out of this based on the fact that I've got a MIG welder. So since this came to me for free, I'm going to provide it to a winner here on the channel. So here's how it's going to work. If you leave a comment down below, that's going to be one way to enter. And I'll just ask you to not spam over and over. I will filter out. So there's just one comment per person that is going to count. The other way that you can make an entry is to send an email to tig@tradeskillersanonymous.com, and I'll flash that up on the screen, and I'll also have it put down in the comments as well. And then the last thing I want to tell you, you don't have to subscribe in order to win. However, there will be an additional entry made for a comment or an email to someone who is subscribed. So there's 3 total ways that you could enter yourself. Number 1, make a comment down below. Any comment, hopefully it's a nice one. Number 2, send an email to tig@tradeskillersanonymous.com. And then a bonus is, if you are a subscriber, you will gain a bonus entry into that. So you could have, if you're a subscriber, 3 chances to win. And I will tell you that I'm going to limit this to the lower 48 in the US. I will ship it to you free of charge to you. The only thing you will need in order to get started is you do have to have argon gas. That obviously can't be shipped, for safety reasons and all that. But in closing, I'll just tell you that if you don't happen to be the person that wins it, and you are curious about getting into TIG welding in steel, now again, this machine won't do aluminum. You would need an AC/DC machine for that. For $200, I don't see how you could go wrong. I will just tell you that it produced welds, and my skill level is very low. It produced welds that surprised me, and the machine didn't have any issues in the stuff that I was doing. I was using 1/8 inch material in all of my testing and practicing, and it did a great job. The machine is much better than my skill level are. So just want to mention that you will need argon if you are the recipient of this one, and that's really about it. I really appreciate you watching. I hope that you found some good information about this particular welder and that it was useful to you. Again, this is not going to be like a change in the channel. This is just a little distraction that this machine found its way to me, and I've been kind of messing around with some welding and thought it would be interesting to share it. And like I said, just want to pay it forward. These dudes sent me this welder and didn't charge me anything for it, and so I'm trying to pass that along, pay it forward. So make a comment below, send an email to tig@tradeskillersanonymous.com. And if you're a subscriber, you're going to have a bonus entry as well, but you are not required to be a subscriber in order to have a chance to win. So with that being said, this is the end of 2024. It's been a strange year for me, just with workload outside of my shop and all that stuff. So I hope that in the coming year, there will be more chance to make good videos for you and that you enjoy them when they come out. Peace, love, and happiness to you in the new year. I hope that 2024 is everything you need it to be for you and your family. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.